Council. Good evening, councillors, senior leadership team, residents of Pelham. I see that we have quorum, so I call to order this meeting of Town Council for Monday, November the 4th. And I see that we do have quorum, as noted, and we now stand, and the deputy clerk will play the national anthem. Go again.
Do you know the answer to this?
Okay, motion put forward by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Kaur. Approval of the agenda. Be it resolved that the agenda for November 4th, 2019 regular meeting of council be adopted as circulated. Is there any changes to the agenda that any councillors would like to make? Councillor Trophy.
Yeah, I'd just like to add a report in under new business in regards to establishing a heritage committee.
Excellent, thank you. Please ask the clerk to please add that on. Any other changes to be made? Not seeing any, I will call the vote. So that would be as amended. Oh, do we have to do a vote on the amendment?
Vote on the amendment?
Yes.
And then as amended.
Okay, so first we'll have to have a vote on the amendment. All those in favor on the agenda as amended? All right, and all those against? And then now we vote on the agenda as amended. All those in favor? All those against? Thank you very much. Motion carries.
Thank you.
At this point in time, after looking at the agenda, is there any councillor that has a pecuniary interest to declare? See none, I ask the clerk to please note that. Now we have several presentations to be made before council tonight. And the first presentation we have is from the Harrington Group. And we ask now for Donna Harrington, accessibility consultant, to please address us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Donna Harrington, and I've served as your accessibility consultant since 2003. We recently submitted a proposal for consideration for another additional 2 years of support to the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, which is a legislative committee under the AODA. I've been working with that committee since 2003 to ensure your full compliance under the law. And this year, the new part of the proposal will be to re-audit facilities within the town to ensure compliance by 2025 with AODA requirements. I'm open to any questions you may have about that proposal at this time.
Okay, thank you for that presentation. And does anyone on council, and Councillor Hahn?
You, Mr. Mayor. Hi. So when you say re-audit, do you physically go to the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we will physically assess each of the municipal facilities over a 2-year period to ensure that they meet the design of public spaces standard requirements under the accessibility law.
So it's every public facility?
Everything
in the
owned
entire
by
town?
the town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Court.
do you see any problems with the audit, or
I think a lot has changed. We audited initially in 2003, between 2003 and 2006, and there's been a lot of growth and change in the town. So I think we'll see a lot of positive change around accessibility in the facilities, but we want to confirm what we see.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, do you see any issues with the parking at our new MCC?
Yes.
Okay.
We have problems with parking everywhere. It's not just limited to the MCC, but we will fully assess everything and provide a written report.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, so you would come back to us and suggest that we need to expand?
Perhaps. Let me look at it and do the calculations first.
Okay.
Before I speak out of turn. I haven't done an audit at MCC since it opened.
But through you, Mr. Mayor, would they not have followed regulations?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Be it a motion put forward by Councillor Hildebrand, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved, Council receive the verbal presentation by Donna Harrington from the Harrington Group relating to accessibility consultant services proposal for information. Any other discussion? Not seeing any, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Next presentation will be by the Fonthill Rotary Club and Summerfest Committee, and I have primary speaker, Mr. Bill Gibson.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My co-host, conspirator, Frank Adamson, is standing right here.
There he is.
I don't know where he is, but I brought some other support with me. Opening our presentation, it's just basically an update to where we are with the construction of the arches. And as you're aware, the Rotary Club is looking after the fundraising, and it has gone very successfully. The Summerfest Committee is looking after the construction and the oversight. And I'd like to introduce to you to Council tonight our third partner. It is the Niagara Separate School Board, and it is the launch group that are training young people in trades to enter the workforce. And I would like all of them to please come forward. And the gentleman that's going to speak to you on that regard is Marco. These people are the ones that are going to actually build the arches for us. And if you would please all come forward. Come on, stand up. Marco, is there anything you'd like to say?
Thank you, Bill, and to Mr. Mayor and members of council and staff and guests. I'm Marco Magazzini. I'm from Niagara Catholic District School Board. Part of my portfolio is I oversee the Niagara Launch Center. If you ever have time, you can come and visit us. We're at the back of the Seaway Mall. We took a part of the old Target, about 12,000 square feet. Our board had a vision to expand on skilled trades and a skill set that is going to be a crisis at some point, I'm sure, as you know. We're no strangers to the town of Pelham, our projects. We've been involved with Pelham Summerfest. We've been involved with the Bandshell Committee, Pelham Art Fest, and you'll see some of our benches and a bike rack in the Isaac Rail Memorial Park as well. Throughout Niagara, you'll see projects that we've worked on with the region of Niagara. There are park benches and bike racks downtown Welland. There's other projects in Welland. There's flagpoles that we work through the BIA. The town of Fort Erie, City of Port Colborne, City of Thorold, and Township of Wainfleet all have projects that we've worked in partnership with municipal councils. We've worked with municipal unions as well, where that came about in terms of installing projects together. So we are very excited to be here. When Bill approached us on this project, we work closely. The Launch Center, students that are coming through, there's probably 250 students that come through daily at the Seaway Mall. We've partnered with various industries and different organizations and skilled trades unions and skilled trades organizations, the Niagara Industrial Association, with local contractors as well. One of our partnerships is James Federico, who's here. James is our kind of in-house engineer who's helped design the launch center for us, also a local resident. And James is helping us with the arches, and James is actually helping us with, we're going to be undertaking another project for the City of Welland as well. So this is good for our kids. So we humbly, on behalf of our director, say thank you to you and to the to committee through Bill for allowing this project. I think it creates a community atmosphere, not only with our students, but it's part of our belief at Niagara Catholic is to be part of the community, whether it's helping those less fortunate or helping within a community, and kids can identify with their community afterwards. So we're happy to be here. We will be pulling St. Anne Elementary School and St. Alexander into this project as well to see it all come together, and then that will transition them when they get their turn at Notre Dame or any Catholic high school at Launch Center. So we do thank you for this.
So before you sit down, sir, if I may, one question. It seems like a fine workforce. Can you assure this council that this workforce can indeed get the job done on time and under budget?
The under budget piece we'll work with, but the on-time piece, I have no doubt in my mind. There's staff here. There's Joe Scherer, who's one of our lead teachers at the Launch Center. There's Frank Morrow. There's Dino Nardangeli. There's Dan Amadoya. Ivana Galante is here. She's our lead with our board. We're not intimidated by this by any means on the project, or the fact that we know, I'm also a resident of Pelham, that this is an important project. I see it. I live here too, so I have no hesitation. You'll probably never see me again if it doesn't work out. I may be moving to Welland and doing benches there, but this is a good thing. I've said that to Bill. This is a good thing for our board. It falls right within our mission statement. And it's a good thing for kids to see this from the ground up. And you really can't get any better than this by going out into community.
Again, just one more comment, then I'll open it up to the council. I think myself, this is absolutely great. You're absolutely right. There's a skilled trade shortage in Canada now, and if this kind of project can get these kids hands-on experience, it's nothing but excellent. Win-win situation. I'll open it up to the rest of council. Any comments, questions for our presenter? And perhaps we might have questions for Bill when he comes back, but Councilor Trophy.
Yeah, I just have a comment, and with this group here, I had experience with them through where I work. We brought in a lot of co-op students, and they've always turned out good. I think we take on about 80 to 90% in the millwright and machining part of it that we get from the co-op students. So it's a good program that you guys are running.
Excellent, thank you. Councilor Hildebrand.
I too would like to echo my support for the project you're undertaking and the work that you're doing at the Niagara Launch Center. I think it's amazing, and I think it's necessary, and I appreciate all your contributions to this effort.
Thank you.
Councilor Stewart.
My comment is, this is not to denigrate the fine students in any way, because I understand the importance of skilled trades. I have a family of tradespeople. But my concern is that the huge change in what the arches were going to be as to what they are now going to be. And can you explain why?
Well, there really hasn't been any change. I can't.
Blue lamb and plywood, that's a huge change.
To not evade your question. Can I just a little longer than that? The next stage is for Bill Sheldon, who is, you're all aware of who he is. He's the co-coordinator on this with Summerfest. We have to meet with the school, and we have to meet with the engineer. And we're going to discuss a couple of different ways of building them. The profile will be identically as we had discussed. If you want to see what that profile looks at, there's a 1/18th scale model down at the community center. They'll be approximately 18 feet tall. They'll be made out of wood. They're glue laminate components. The memorandum of understanding that we have is, Councillor, that when we get to a final engineered drawing, we will be submitting it to Mr. Marr, your town engineer, and he we'll be looking at them as far as structure and sustainability and that sort of stuff. And we're going to, that's why we haven't met with the I haven't met personally with the engineer yet, so really, I'm not trying to avoid your question or run around, but until the engineer puts a stamp on the drawing, it's all speculation. Now, I have met with the mayor, and I've met with Mr. Cripps, along with Frank, and we have discussed a couple of ideas. One of them is that the interior of the arch will have a hollow section in it. And the reason for the hollow section is we're going to run conduits up through there so that we can pull wires or whatever. Because you remember the last one's got the plumbing on the outside after the fact. So what we want to do is, I've been talking to our esteemed person over here, my controller at Summerfest. We might want to put pot lights or speakers in those in the future. We're not saying they're going to be there now, but what we want to do is we want to make sure that the bases that these things sit on and the arches will be able to facilitate some future thinking or some future thinking. So, again, I'm not trying to avoid your question until I meet with the engineer, until we give the drawings to Mr. Marr. Then we'll see what the final thing looks like, okay? But it will be wood, it will be glue laminated together, probably mechanically fastened with screws, just belt and suspenders. We're thinking that the base coat on it will be epoxy. Then there'll be kind of an acid etch type thing, and then we're going to put a few coats of paint on the outside. And I defer to my wife, who is the chair of the Art Advisory Committee. She will tell us what the final color and texture will be. We're also going to, we've sold the faces of the arches. I believe Mel's here from the Rotary Club, but Frank's very good at selling the faces, so we have, oh, there he is. Hey, thanks, Mel.
Apologies, folks.
I think we have 16 arches, and the way Frank's and Mel's been selling them, I think we have enough arches to go from here to Wellman, but like if we buy all the faces, so that's where we are right now until I see what the engineer recommends, and we get Mr. Marr's final approval. I can't tell you exactly what it's going to be made of, but it's going to be wood, it's going to be glue laminate. It's going to sit on a concrete base, and as you're aware, the street slopes down like that, so we're building them in groups of 4, and the concrete base will step down with the street, and those bases will have facilities in them that we can put electrical in for Christmas festival or whatever comes along. By doing that, Marco has some extremely interesting equipment. I wish it was in my shop. But he has a CNC machine that will cut. So what we're trying to do is design the arches so that each piece is the same, like the arc, so that it can go in a machine and it'll just cut it precisely. And we're hoping that this will convince the engineers that we're building a component that is very strong. But remember, the arches only hold air up. It doesn't have a load on it or anything like that. So we're And as you're probably all aware, Mr. Sheldon and I were the 2 gentlemen along with the finance department and your CEO. We were sitting as the overseers of the community center. And Mr. Mayor, echoing your earlier comments, we delivered that on time and under budget, and we're going to do the same thing here.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
For the most part. Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, when you say glue lam, does that include plywood as a glued laminate product?
Yes. You can have 2 types of glue laminate beams. You can have a solid, like solid wood, or you can use marine grade plywood and make like a hollow structure with wooden, dimensional wood, like a 2x4, let's just say that. So if you got a box like this, so you're looking through the arch, there could be a piece of laminated wood up here, which is linear type wood, and plywood all the way around, and whatever the coating is, and then up through the center, there'll be baffles every so far, if we go for that type of design, but until I talk to the engineer, I can't really tell you what the final outcome is. But I'm sure when we submit them that Mr. Meyer, you'll be reporting to council as to the effectiveness of them. Okay, best I can do right now, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
If
Okay,
that-
just one more through you, Mr. Mayor. When they were originally presented to council, they were presented as a solid glulam beam with channel in them for the lighting and everything. And now the hollow construction,
Oh, I said
that's a substantial
that
change.
Considering that, there was an article in the paper in which another gentleman had said that it would be glue laminate. I didn't quite say that. I said we were considering that. What will happen is that the final product will still be wood, and it'll still be glued, and it'll still be painted. I don't know until the engineer comes along and gives us the final design. That is what, a solid one is one consideration, a kind of a composite one of solid and laminated panels is another. I'm not sure right now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Any other
Council-
questions?
Councilor Corr?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. So what is the difference between the old and the new? Because
Well,
it
there's no
seems to be the
difference, really.
difference, except, let me finish,
Oh.
with either screws or different glue, but it's basically the same structure, hollow with plywood.
We haven't ruled out a solid one, but I haven't talked to the engineer about that and the capabilities of the school. Some sort of hollow in the middle, there's another way of doing that. And then there's a hollow box using glue laminated panels.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. It didn't, what's the difference between,
Okay,
like this one, the old one lasted 6
Okay.
years, how long would
All
this
right, let me,
last?
the difference being, there's really none. The solid one would, of course, weigh a lot more. If we can reduce the interior volume in it and make it hollow, it becomes a little bit lighter. Structural wise, I'd have to defer to the engineer, but they're not holding anything up, they're just there as an arch.
Are you done, Councilor?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Trophy?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think it would be important when you go through this exercise with the engineers and with Public Works is to ensure that the location, there's going to be enough room for snow removal on the sidewalks. It was brought to my attention, and you might, with the subcontractor that we use, prior to this, they had to do that area with shovels instead of the snow blower that they have for the sidewalks, and that always resulted into being the last operation.
Okay.
So if they can get that, then it'll be always cleared that area
Okay,
quicker. So the location of it, and I think it was brought up to your committee as well, but I just want to make sure that you don't forget that point.
Counselor, if you take a look at the model that we produced, you will notice that there is a section in the middle which represents the street. Then I did a section that the arches actually sit on, and that is the red brick that is in there. And then there's another section on the outside, which is the sidewalk. So what we're doing is the arches will not sit on the sidewalk, they'll sit on the red brick area, which, I mean, sure, people walk on it, but for your snow removal, you'll be able to go right up there. The other thing is we're putting the arches on a concrete base so that if the snow blowers or the tractors are going by, if they do hit the arch, they're only gonna, like, the concrete will be designed so they can just kind of bounce off. one of the thoughts was, the day after the arches fell down, I went down with the power drill and drilled a few holes in it, and I found that about that much up the arch was all rotten lumber. And what it was doing was it was absorbing the salt and the water that were being used for snow removal. So by putting them on a bit of a concrete base, it will vary a little bit depending on the step down. That will lift the arch up. It'll also give us a little more height for trucks coming in and out, so we won't have to have those signs hanging on, you know, like 9'6" or whatever the thing was. And this way then, so your concern about snow removal has already been, if you take a look at the model, you know, it's hard to discuss it with you right now, but, or visualize it. But if you take a look at the model, if you're down at the MCC, you'll see that there is a definite spot, and that was to designate the bricks that are going over there. So it won't interfere with the sidewalk at all.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your presentation, Bill. Perhaps now the related Frank Adamson, if he has any words to share with this council?
I'll move my notes so you don't get any.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, councilor, staff. Again, I apologize for my lateness, but I do have a job, and you guys changed your meetings to 5:30. I thought you were meeting at 6:30, but at any rate, my apologies. We've had a very successful campaign since we first met you back in April. Our goal was to raise somewhere around $100,000. I'm happy to report that as of right now, we are sitting at $115,395. So the sale of the arches essentially just took off, and we couldn't keep up with it. So we're very happy about that. We had a very good social, which had about 164 people in attendance, which was fairly profitable as well. But as I said, essentially the arches are basically sold, and we will have appropriate signage for those arches. It's going to be appealing, and as I said, we're sitting at around $115,000 right now. Very happy that the Lions Club came on board as a sponsor. The Kinsman Club has come on board as a sponsor. The Fawn Hill Firefighters Association has come on board. And I just got word that the Niagara Regional Police Association have also come on board with an arch. I just got that word about 15 minutes ago. So, as I said, very happy with the campaign. It's a lot of work. A lot of people spent a lot of time on putting this together. Very appreciative of Vicky's staff as well in regards to the social. And to the mayor for being the highest bidder under the arches. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Those three live auction items brought in, and the silent auction, over $4,000. We're hoping for three, we got $4,200. So, and kudos to Annette Steele in particular. So Annette is the artist that did Under the Arches. She also graciously has given up her cottage for a long weekend, which went for $1,400. And there's a B&B, well, we still have B&Bs, that sold for, it was worth $500, and that went for $1,200. So the auction was very successful.
Excellent,
And
excellent.
we appreciate the support of the community who really have come on board to make this a very, very successful fundraising.
So with the on board of the Niagara Police, that almost becomes a regional project.
We just need Niagara EMS. I don't have them yet, but I used to be their chief, so I can maybe work on that as well.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Adamson? Okay, not seeing any. We thank you and your group for making the presentation tonight, and when I see the working group, as all council, we're very confident that the Archers will rise again and for quite a while. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Actually, if I might, Mr. Mayor, I've just got something for you, for the town. It's basically a thank you for the support of the town.
Okay.
For the staff in regards to pro-social.
On behalf of council, I thank you for this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I have a motion put forward by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be resolved that council receive the verbal presentation by the Fonthill Rotary Club and Summerfest Committee regarding an update on the replacement of the Arches project for information. Any further comment on this? Not seen any. I call the vote. All those in favor? All those against? Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the presentation list is Niagara's Regional Niagara Transportation Services Capital Projects 5-year overview, and the presenter is Mr. Frank Tazone. Sir, the podium is yours.
All right, Mr. Mayor, Council, and town staff, I'm here today to present the region's 5-year capital program for transportation engineering. My name is Frank Tassoni. I'm the Associate Director of Transportation Engineering. I'm going to run through a number of slides, and I'll take questions at the end regarding any of the projects that we highlight. Okay, so the region's 5-year capital forecast and 10-year capital forecast is comprised of 4 different categories. We have network expansions, which are projects where we are actually expanding the network. We may be adding lanes, adding capacity to roadways. We have intersection improvement program, which is where we target specific intersections on our roadways. We have our roads rehabilitation program, which is really derived towards increasing the condition of roads that are in poor condition, and then we have our structure rehabilitation program, which is primarily focused on bridges and major culverts. Our vision and the rationale for going around to municipal councils this term is to explain our capital program, to run through the projects that we're going to be doing in your community, with the goal of trying to be more inclusive and having better relationships with our partners to be able to collaborate on our projects and make sure that if there is any town aspects to projects that we're doing, that we wrap those aspects into our projects. So we're going to go over a number of projects. We currently have $8 million earmarked in the next 5 years on region projects that are within the town. The first project that I'm going to highlight is Rice Road. So right now we have the first section of Rice Road under construction from Highway 20 to Merritt Road. That project should be completed in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Definitely by the end of November. There's only a little bit of landscaping and some illumination left to work through. This next project is the section that will take it from Merritt Road to Thorold Road, so the last portion of Pelham and then into Welland. So it's currently estimated for construction in 2025. There's a number of steps that need to be taken along the way, including the land use planning for the old soccer facility on Rice Road that is under the jurisdiction of the city of Welland. So once all of that information is wrapped together, then we'll be completing the EA and moving into detailed design on that project. The next project that I'm going to highlight is Regional Road 529 Effingham Street. So this project has a few different components to it. One of them, as you're going to see in the next slide, is the twin culverts, which we're replacing, and there is also a section of erosion that's happening on River Road that's also going to be addressed as part of this program. So construction year we have estimated for this is 2021, and that includes the reconstruction of Effingham Street from Weber to River, including the erosion issue that we're having at the intersection of Effingham and River. The second portion of that program, which is going to precede the road construction, is the twin culverts. So we currently have an issue with the two culverts that are crossing Effingham. We are going to wrap this project into one single project. However, due to budget restrictions, we've pushed off the road works, and we will be completing the culvert work, which is being replaced with a structure next year, and then moving into the road works the subsequent year. The largest part of our roads rehab program is our resurfacing. So we do between $8 to $12 million in resurfacing annually. And we try to pick roads that are at the right time in their life cycle to resurface. We have a couple of roads that we've listed here in the 5-year program that are in Pelham. One of them is Weber Road from Cream to Effingham, and the second is Vineland Town Line from Weber to 16. So those are two roads that we're targeting in the 5-year forecast to be resurfaced to make the riding surface better for the motorists. So those are the specific projects that we have in our 5-year program, but I also wanted to mention some other initiatives that we have going on as a group in transportation. So the first being the complete streets typologies. So a couple of years ago, the region completed a transportation master plan, which identified that all of our streets are going to fall under 6 different typologies, whether that be rural, urban, collector. They're going to have different typologies for all 6. So we're embarking on a study that's going to drive what those 6 typologies are going to look like with respect to active transportation, road platform, and all different types of modes for motorists and pedestrians, cyclists. So that study will be underway in the very near future, and there'll be more information coming forward to the town as we move through that study. The region's also completing a wayfinding study, which is going to do a better job. It's going to be a more comprehensive way of looking at wayfinding, as well as having some wayfinding that is more contiguous to the entire region instead of having different types of wayfinding for every municipality. It's going to look at some ways of bringing a more consistent approach to the whole region. And we have a number of safety initiatives that we're working on right now. So I'm going to start with community safety zones. So we currently implemented 2 community safety zones, one at 20 Valley School and one at St. David's Public School. There'll be some more locations rolled out in 2020. Those community safety zones are really looking at vulnerable areas, so school zones, parks, old folks' homes, where we really feel that the road users are vulnerable. So we've got those 2 in place. We'll be looking to add some more in 2020 with the intention of trying to make those areas a lot more safe. We have automated speed enforcement study that's going on, which is right now that's with the province for approval. So once that gets approved, we'll be rolling out some automated speed enforcement. That's primarily focused around school zones. So when that does get approved by the province, you're going to see those starting to be implemented around school zones first. That way we can try to capture some people that are speeding in vulnerable areas. We have a red light camera program that we're working on, which is to catch motorists that are not obeying signals. So that's in the works. And we also have a large initiative around Vision Zero. Vision Zero is the initiative around trying to have 0 fatalities on our roadways, amongst a number of ways that we would try to bring that number down. So we have that initiative going forward. And the last project that I want to talk about is the escarpment crossing. So we have a new escarpment crossing in Grimsby that we're working on. That project has been sidelined for a few years, but we're looking to bring that back to the forefront to keep working on another escarpment crossing for the Niagara area. Okay, so those are the projects that I have to present today. And I ask if there's any questions.
If I can, I'll start off if I may. I thought that when I looked at the regional budget, that it's either this year or next year, 2020, I thought they were the signal, putting traffic lights at the corner of Canberra and Victoria Avenue, but I didn't see that listed here.
Correct, that's in our current budget, so that is, we are retaining a consultant right now to look at that intersection.
And will that be done this year then, or how long?
I believe the funding for that specific intersection is in 2020.
Okay, thank you. Questions, Councilor Wayne?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Is there any timeline for the Merritt Street connection to Niagara Street in Welland? Is that a regional thing, or is that Welland?
Yes,
And-
so through Mr. Mayor, that is in our 5-year capital program. There's a number of things that have to happen there. We have to run an environmental assessment that brings that section from Cataract to Rice Road. That will tell us the road section. That portion is under region ownership. However, if you were to move east of that, the section of road from Cataract to Niagara Street is under the ownership of the city of Welland. So we are, under the city of Thorold, I believe that section is. So we are looking at that road section. It is in our 5-year program, and the end goal is to be able to own the section of Merritt Street all the way from the 406 right in.
So are we looking closer to 5 years out as opposed to a couple of years out?
I can bring that information back through staff, the exact timelines for you. Yeah.
Councilor Trophy?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. If we go back to page 6 of 8, and that's the hot mix resurfacing, I didn't catch what year that was scheduled for. I caught the other ones, but I didn't catch that one.
So that is in our 5-year program, so
Okay.
it's anywhere from 1 to 5 years. What we do is we evaluate the road network every 3 years, so we do a third of the network every year. So I can't tell you exactly what year that's going to fall in,
Okay.
but I can tell you that in the next 5 years, those 2 roads are definitely on the horizon in the next 5 years. It'll be a matter of how roads deteriorate and at what pace, so that we can make sure that we hit the roads at the right time. But those 2 will definitely be in the next 5 years.
Fair enough, thank you.
Councilor Vaughn. I haven't been here for so long.
That's all right. I'm forgettable.
Yeah.
Hi, Frank. I'm just wondering, with regards to Rice Road, so you're pretty much done from 20 to Merritt. I'm just surprised it wasn't increased in size, in the width. So it's really still just 2 lanes with optional, like turning lanes. Was there a plan? Was that only the plan to make it, to not expand it, or is there a future plan to expand it? Because when you think about the volume, the rapid growth of the area in Rice Road and Fawn Hill, and then you've got it, kind of a main thoroughfare for people going to Welland. It's a very, very busy road, and to not make it an extra lane, it seems a missed opportunity, considering we'll wait now until it's all developed and then go, ooh, we should have made it wider. Wouldn't we think about doing that now before it continues to get developed all the way down? Wouldn't that be kind of forward thinking?
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, when we did the original environmental assessment there, I believe it was actually through the Planning Act that was done. We did hire a consultant to look at the traffic volumes, the future land use planning, and the future volumes. And at that time, it didn't warrant going to 4 lanes. As you may be aware, guessing it's about 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit less than that, that we reconstructed Regional Road 20, and we did bring 20 from 2 lanes to 5 lanes, and in some sections 4 lanes. But that was all based on the land use planning and the volumes that were projected. So the projections that we had for Rice Road only recommended us adding the auxiliary lanes. So where you're seeing a lot of those volumes are for actual uses that are on Rice Road, where you're seeing the left-hand turn lanes for the Meridian Community Center and for some of the new subdivisions that are being built there. But the 2 lanes that we have were actually adequate for the horizon year that we looked at.
So when you said you had the consultant do the plan, did they know at that time when they did the plan that the volume of houses that was gonna be, because that's newer, right? The development on Rice Road across from.
Mr. Mayor, absolutely. That study was only done a couple of years ago, so it was current planning. It wasn't something that we've had on the shelf for a long time. It was current planning. So all of the future uses are there.
So will they reevaluate in what kind of increments, every 2 years, 4 years, 5 years? Like how often you go back and reevaluate, whether you need to do another study and widen it?
Through Mr. Mayor, that would be evaluated if we started to see the road capacity failing on that road, where we would go back and look if there was future developments that were not known at that time. I don't see that really being the case in the short term. That road can handle a lot of volume. 2 lanes can handle up to 1,000 cars per hour on that road. So I don't really see that being the case for Rice Road in the immediate future. But if we ever saw failures and failures at the intersections, then we would go back and look at if improvements were required at that time.
And will there be a plan then when you get to, I guess it'd be Welland Road or Quaker Road and Rice, will that be a light at some point in time or still remain a 4-way stop?
I believe Quaker, I can come back through staff on that. I'm not 100% sure of that.
Councilor Court?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Pelham Street, is it a regional road or do we own that? Pelham Street?
Pelham Street was downloaded to the town a few years back.
Okay. And the other question is, do you see any future addition to Port Robinson Road to take some of the pressure off of Highway 20? What is the region looking at, an on-ramp and an off-ramp on Port Robinson Road? And why didn't they ever constructed that when they were building that bridge?
Yeah, so the Port Robinson coming off of the 406, I'm guessing you're.
Yeah, well, there's no entrance or exit. Before you used to cross it.
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Mayor, the interchange would have been reviewed by the Ministry of Transportation when they reconstructed the 406. The real method that the region has, and the option that the region has to try and alleviate traffic coming into Highway 20, in from Highway 20, is to try and have that Merritt Street extension. So that would give motorists an option to go down to Merritt Street and come down Merritt straight into Rice Road and into Pelham through that venue. So the ministry didn't determine at that time that an interchange at Port Robinson was something that they were in support of. So now it's up to us as the region to explore the options that we have open to us, which is the Merritt Street extension.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Why didn't they ever extend or Merritt Street? I've been in this committee for 63 years, and as a child, I always wondered why that road stopped and picked up somewhere in Fawn Hill.
Through Mr. Mayor, I can't tell you what exactly happened in the past. It was probably decisions that were made long before I was around. However, I can tell you that it's my thought that because it was multi-jurisdictional and there's multiple owners, that may not have been thought of as a real strong regional route. But I think that at some point, once that's extended, we will probably upload that section of Merritt Street that belongs to the city, and then it'll become a regional road right from the 406 through, which will be able to handle a lot more capacity than what you currently have there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Hahn?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just want to understand, I guess, the process that's used at the region to liaise with municipalities. So, as you know, we have a lot of building going on, and we'll have more building going on, not just in Fawn Hill, but also in Fenwick. So, that's all well and good, but that means more cars, more volume. And so you're going to have more cars using Welland Road, Canberra Road, Highway 20, and so there's a lot of people now that are using the country back roads to try to circumvent getting on Highway 20 because there's such a backlog on Highway 20 which can't be widened. So how do you, I guess, liaise with, whether it's Barb, I suppose, or whomever, to kind of jive the volume, the developments that are going to be uploaded to the roads that need to be addressed? Like, there seems to be a bit of a lag. I'm just concerned that we're developing it at such a rate that there doesn't seem to be roads going to be widened or created. So you're going to have a lot more traffic issues in the future. It's almost a given.
Yeah. Through Mr. Mayor, so when the region embarks on a construction project, we go through an environmental assessment for pretty well all of our projects. And during that process, the environmental assessment process, we look at all types of factors, and town staff would be part of our project team. So we would have them feeding information into the study. They're invited to the study. They submit comments on behalf of themselves and senior staff to the study. We take all of the information that they have and that we have at the current time into consideration when we finalize our decision making around roads, number of lanes, exactly the type of treatments we're going to do, if it's a roundabout or a signal. So we take all of that information into consideration. So town staff are considered to be our stakeholders and our partners in these projects, and we work very closely with town staff to make sure that we have the most current information that we can possibly have.
And so at what intervals would you meet with them, like quarterly, yearly?
Well, if we have multiple,
Bi-monthly?
through Mr. Mayor, if we have multiple projects going on, it would be on a project-by-project basis, so quarterly might not be enough. A project, they might meet monthly if they're working on a large project. If we're not working on any projects together, we may not sit down for 6 months, but at the minimum, we sit down to discuss our capital plans once a year. So I would do that with Director Marr. We would sit down and talk about our plans and the town's plans, so we can make sure if there's any overlap that we're addressing that together.
Okay, thanks.
So a couple of questions. When do you, is it standard practice now to put bike lanes in? Or I guess the question should be, when do you decide to put bike lanes in when you're redoing a road?
So the region is being very proactive with respect to active transportation. We see that bike lanes, different modes of getting from point A to point B, whether it be bike lanes, active transportation trails, we're starting to get more into multi-use paths as well. But we take that into consideration on every project. So our transportation master plan that was completed a couple of years ago has identified some key links for us throughout the region. But aside from that, we try to put bike lanes in whenever we have capacity in terms of road platform. So our standard road platform is 2 driving lanes and a bike lane on either side for a 10-meter platform. That's our standard road platform. And unless we're really not able to achieve that because of property ownership, then we try to achieve that whether it's in the transportation master plan or not. The only time that we lean away from that is if those bike lanes are on a road where we feel it's not safe for cyclists. So if the road speed is 80 kilometers an hour and it's rural, a lot of times that's not safe for cyclists because the speeds are not conducive to some of the user groups that we have. So in those cases, and in a lot of the rural areas that you'll see throughout Pelham, you'll see that we have a 3.5 meter driving lane and then a paved shoulder that's not marked as a cycling facility, but it does provide space in case cyclists choose to use that. But we don't advocate for that. So even through, I'll give you a good example, is even through Highway 20, on Highway 20 through the town, the bike lanes are actually not there. The bike network is taken offline there. So we try to make sure that the cycling facilities that we do provide are safe for the users.
Okay, thank you. And you mentioned automatic speed control at school. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so automated speed control is where we actually have the ability to take photos of motorist license plates and be able to charge them and find them through video detection. It's an initiative that was in place a number of years ago. It's back in front of the province now for approval so that all municipalities can start to use this type of control. And if it does get approved by the province, then the first place you'll start to see it is in school zones, because that's where we really want to enforce to the motoring public, please do not speed. There's a lot of vulnerable road users in that area, being the children that are walking to school.
So that won't be just on traffic lights. You would have them on their own special poles?
That's correct.
Okay, and would that be photo radar, basically?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, excellent. Because they've had that, the provinces, I thought they allowed that to be done quite a few years ago. I'm surprised it's taken this long to put the initiative in effect.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, you're absolutely correct. A number of years ago, that was something that was actively being used, photo radar. The province leaned away from that. The legislation is coming back now and is back in front of the province for approval to start using that method once again.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Motion put forward by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Wink. Be it resolved that council receive the Niagara Region Transportation Services Capital Project 5-year overview presentation for information. Any more discussion on this? Not seen, oh, no, I'm not seeing any. I call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Madam. And next delegation, Public Art Committee, Diane Gibson and Brian DeMartel, or perhaps Tina Drummond. I'm sorry. Yep.
I want to change the slide. What am I using? Just the arrows? Up and down? Okay, thank you. Yes, Brian was here but had another commitment, so Tina is stepping in. Hello, Mayor and Council. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for establishing the Pelham Art Advisory Committee, and would like to make use of this opportunity to update you on the progress that we have made since our first meeting back in March of 2019. I'm going this way? No? This way. Aha. Council appointed this group of residents to be the Pelham Art Advisory Committee for the term of council. Many of our committee members are here tonight. They were here. And I would like to take the opportunity to introduce them. First of all, probably doesn't need an introduction, our council representative is Bob Hildebrand. My name is Diane Gibson. I'm currently acting as chair of the committee. Else Swart, who is unable to be here this evening, is our vice chair. Jessica Sung is our mayor's youth advisory rep. She's not here either. Members at large are Barb Rubiak, behind me, Christina or Tina Drummond, and Brian DeMartel, who had to leave. He's a lead in a production and had a dress rehearsal called for tonight. Our town staff liaison has been Jody Hendricks, who's now off on mat leave, and Stephanie Yole will be transitioning into that position. And of course, Vicki Renway has been assisting us. Once we were appointed, we were able to hit the ground running and have been meeting monthly. We were able to invite B. Clark to help facilitate 2 meetings to help us develop our goals and a strategic plan for the term of council 2019 through 2022. With help from B, we discussed changing the terms of reference for the committee, because we also wanted to change the name of the committee from the Public Arts Advisory Committee to just simply the Arts Advisory Committee. Okay, Gina, that's you.
After our strategic planning sessions, the committee agreed to update and include other forms of art within the scope of the committee. And some of the changes we feel are worthy to highlight. In the membership, we've now included dramatic arts, art theatre education, music, dance and heritage. The following are our new objectives, which include both arts and culture, and to advise staff regarding the implementation of the Cultural Master Plan and Pelham Public Art Master Plan for the town of Pelham, to provide a forum for groups and organisations interested in preserving and/or promoting arts and cultural resources, to conduct advocacy on behalf of Pelham arts and cultural communities, to provide advice and guidance on the implementation of Pelham's municipal arts and cultural policies, bylaws, and other corporate policies that may affect arts and culture, to advise on ways to increase the commitment to and further public understanding of arts and cultural issues, to provide advice and guidance on the success of Pelham Arts and Cultural Funding, development, facility, community and public arts, cultural activity and initiatives. We will endeavour to recommend changes that are required. To report to Pelham Town Council on the state of the arts and culture in Pelham and resulting social, quality of life and economic impacts. Consider issues, new trends and future needs related to the delivery of arts and cultural programme in Pelham, and to monitor funding opportunities for art initiatives and programmes, encourage the town or other eligible agencies to apply for funding and provide input on funding applications. We want to continue to review and develop Pelham Cultural Master Plan and Pelham's Art Master Plan.
During B's facilitation workshops, we were able to establish 3 goals to try and achieve these steps over the term of council. Goal number 1 is communication and outreach. We wanted to develop a concise message about the role of the Pelham Art Advisory Committee, create awareness about arts in Pelham, engage arts-related groups and clubs in discussion about the visual and performing arts in Pelham, and to research best practices. Goal number 2 was fostering the arts in Pelham. We wanted to expand and enhance the arts on the walls. We wanted to identify opportunities for the performing arts and to develop the process to select and recommend public artworks, including the identification and evaluation criteria for public art, such as aesthetics, cost assessment, insurance, maintenance, etc., for donations, purchases, rotation of art, and decommissioning of art.
And the last goal, goal number 3, is to identify partnerships and funding opportunities. Explore the opportunities to work in collaboration with local schools. Secure an annual budget from the town of Pelham to support the work of the Pelham Arts Committee, and to research, identify and review funding opportunities and recommend policies to council as needed. Thank you. We look forward to the implementation of our goals.
And I guess we're here to answer any questions if we can.
Okay, thank you, ladies, for the presentation. Very detailed and ambitious.
Yes. It's ambitious, but it's over 4 years and more.
Excellent, very good. Thank you. Any questions for the ladies? Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to make a comment. I'm probably the most unlikely member to be on the Arts Committee. My mother was an artist, but that never transferred down to me, I can tell you that. However, I do enjoy it, and if you've been upstairs on the 2nd floor, next to the Kersey room, the Arts Committee, and especially the ladies and the executive, done an extremely good job in selecting artists, and picture hanging is up there, and they've introduced a new hanging system, which is much more secure and easy for the artists to install, and the quality of the art up there is exceptional.
Yeah.
I must really commend the group on the work that they've done. It's a pleasure to be part of you.
Thank you. The new system is lovely, much easier to work with. And if I can speak to that, it's been really nice. We've had the call for entry, but that's not it. Artists to show their work in the MCC. We've already had Beverly Sneath in September. Wendy Palermo is there now. We're hoping to get a broad mix, not just always have watercolors or acrylics or oil paintings. I'd like to get photography. I want to get children's art. I want to have it mixed up so you don't have 6 months of painting. I want to flip it around if we can. So we've already had, I think, 8 artists booked for the year now. So we're booking into the spring already. So that's excellent. And Sarah Ferguson from Niagara this week has very generously asked to come when the new artist is showing her work, and is offering to do a little write-up about the artist, and it's getting, I think, really good publicity for the MCC and the town. So I think that's lovely.
Councillor?
Look, I'd just like to make one other comment. This group is very proactive and very forward-thinking. The artists they've selected are quality artists, and not only that, the art sells because there's price on that artwork up there, and the artists have been successful, and there's a big percentage that comes back for the sale of the artist, pictures and portraits to the town.
Wow.
So it actually is a money-generating activity that this group has, and I'm very proud of what they've obtained so far.
Well, I've seen the art, and I just assumed it was from Europe. I'm sorry. No. It is, like the councillor said there, it is very high-quality stuff hanging up there. It's amazing the skill this community has for artists here. It is amazing paintings
Lovely,
and stuff.
but we also want to, in our little blurb, we've written as our elevator speech or our message, part of it says that we want to showcase the talent of residents of all ages, amateur and professional. So I don't want it to necessarily feel that you have to be a professional showing artist somewhere. We want to put school children's art in and encourage them to move forward. We want it to be broadly based throughout the whole community.
Excellent. Well, if you ever have an exhibition of stickmen, I will be there. That's the limit of my artistic abilities. But anyway, it's great to see. It's great to see the stuff you have up there.
Excellent.
Any other comments from other councillors? Okay. Thank you for the presentation. Motion put forward by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Stewart. Be it resolved that council receive the presentation by the Pelham Public Art Committee for information. Any further discussion? And not seeing any, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. And now, next delegation is the report of regional councillor with Diana Hewson. Diana?
That's me. Hi, everyone. So I have a couple things that I've added to my report, but I'm going to add 2 to the end which aren't on the report because they've developed since I submitted my report, and that will be to talk about the garbage contract, because I know all of you will probably want information on that, as well as the Niagara. I'm going to just mention the Niagara Biennial Design Awards, but I'll start out by talking about the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. So the region recently joined the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities, and this is making a commitment to investing time and resources to create a more welcoming and inclusive community. The idea is it will promote social inclusion, eradicate forms of racism and discrimination, as well as promote human rights and diversity. There are 77 municipalities across Canada and 20 in Ontario that are part of the coalition, and there's an annual cost of $144,000 to implement that. So of course it will also form part of our budget and still needs approval at that level before we actually move forward on solidifying that as an initiative. In addition to that, I had put forward a motion to establish a Women's Advisory Committee. I was thrilled that it passed unanimously. They're actually going to be considering the terms of reference this week at the Corporate Services Standing Committee on Wednesday. So the idea of the committee is to apply a gender equity lens to decision-making processes, and it has the goals of advocating for gender-based issue resolutions and opportunities related to regional policies, priorities, and decisions, promoting leadership development that empowers women in Niagara to fully participate in civic life, researching and providing information and resources about women gender-based issues to Niagara. Some of these goals were, let's say, motivated by some existing committees. There is one in Edmonton, Victoria, and Hamilton that have been around for a long time, so I'm looking to bring some of those initiatives here as well. I think it's time. I'm surprised we haven't had one already, but and then the third one, which I'm sure you'll be interested in, was there was a presentation made, and Councillor Chofie was at the meeting at the Planning and Economic Development Standing Committee by Samuel Buabane from Cannabis Compliance Inc. His presentation focused on the cannabis regulation framework, and as a result of that presentation, a lot of the councillors were interested in, the legal framework as it relates to cannabis planning, enforcement, regulation, and I put forward a motion to establish a workshop to include local planning staff, councillors, and legal representation to identify bylaws and regulations available to municipalities to address the concerns. So what we have yet to hear, when that workshop will be established, but I'm hoping it'll be forthcoming in the next maybe 3 months. And then the last item which I had on my report was our capital budget. We have 193 capital projects with a budget request of $375+ million. Last year the capital budget was $274 million. That was our highest budget ever. This year it's $100 million more. There is quite a crunch in terms of our aging infrastructure, as well as some deferred projects for the previous year, as well as some significant costs, including the 2 long-term care development projects being Gilmore Lodge and Lynn Haven Home in St. Catharines. So we're going to have a very challenging budget year. We haven't got to the rate budget yet, but so far it's looking very challenging. So the 2 items I wanted to just add is the garbage contract. We're assessing the garbage contract for next year. It will effectively divide the region into 2 service areas. And in principle, we've approved bi-weekly service. Bi-weekly service speaks directly to items that are going directly into our landfills. So regular garbage, whereas our recycling and our organics are going to be continued to be picked up on a weekly basis. So the idea of this is we want to drive organics out of our garbage and into the appropriate places. We're trying to reach a diversion target of 65%, and also shifting this service model can also attain a $1 million savings to the contract. So trying to be more environmentally friendly, as well as realize a little bit of cost savings, knowing that we're getting hit with a big budget this year. And it also helps, recognize that our landfills aren't going to last forever, so we need to be more responsible with what we're putting into those. And then the final item is we just announced the Niagara Biennial Design Awards. It was a launch on November 1st. The region's now accepting submissions until January 24th at noon. The awards will recognize urban design, architecture, landscape architecture, and outdoor arts projects. I feel like we're having a bit of an art theme night. So creative projects that are improving our public spaces. So if you're aware of any projects locally, I would encourage people to apply for those. So that is, I don't know if I had a question. That's it. Does anyone have any questions?
Councilor Chofie.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. We were talking in the budget, the request of $375.5 million. If that were to go through today, say any kind of a percentage, would that work out percentage-wise for the residents of Pelham?
The capital budget, we're looking at a significant draw on our reserves to try and tackle that. The levy budget, will work out towards the tax increase. I don't think that the capital budget is going to draw more from tax, but, you know, we don't know where we're gonna land yet, because we haven't seen our other budgets yet, so.
Okay. Two.
And there will be an opportunity to look at, you know, the other projects that have been thrown at us and where we wanna make cuts, so that'll definitely impact the number.
Councillor Hildebrand?
Yeah, I'd just like to supplement your report. Thank you for your report. On the waste management side of it, I'm on the Regional Road 12 Waste Management Site Committee. And we're happy to report that our capacity was supposed to be completed by basically now a 25-year run. And we have at least another 25 years. And if our diversion tactics improve, we're forecasting we might get out to 2048 with the capacity at the site. So Pelham is part of a community of 5 different communities that has a waste capacity, and we don't have a problem like the rest of the province does. So we're in a very good state. We have an engineered site, which is one of the few in Ontario, and it's an amazing site, and the work that the region is doing there with the leaders there is exceptional. Thank you.
And I'd just like to touch on the one thing you mentioned, Ms. Houston, was I can remember the debate around the horseshoe at the region when we were deciding to go to every other week with the garbage. And the one thing that sealed it was when we found out that other communities that had done that, the diversion rate went from 50% to increase 16% just by that alone. And when you consider the tons of garbage that is handled by the region, if you can take 16% of that and recycle it, then it was actually a no-brainer. All of a sudden, the $1 million was nice, but the fact that just by doing that, we were going to increase our recycling by 16%, that really did sway a lot of people, that's for sure. Thank you for your report. Any other questions again? Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So a motion put forward by Councillor Stewart, seconded by Councillor Hildebrand. Be it resolved that the November 4th, 2019 report submitted by Regional Councillor Hewson be received for information. Any other debate? I call the vote, or call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Motion put forward by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. 1, SC-26/2019, Special Council Minutes of October 21st, 2019. And number 2, C-17/2019, Regular Council Minutes of October 21st, 2019. After viewing these minutes, is there any discussion or questions about them? Not seeing any, I call the question. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. The next, 7, business arising from council minutes. Would this be what we do, Councilor Cho? No, he's on other business. Okay. So we not seen any. We go down to request to lift consent agenda items for separate consideration. Is there any councillor that wishes to lift any of the consent agenda items for further debate? Okay, not seeing any. Motion put forward by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hahn. Be it resolved that the consent agenda items as listed on the October 21st, 2019 council agenda be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion put forward by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Trophy. Be it resolved that council receive Mayor Junkin's report regarding the memorandum of understanding relating to the procurement of goods and services representing a commitment by the cities of Port Colborne, Thorold, and Welland, the Township of Wainfleet, and the Town of Pelham, and that council for the Town of Pelham endorse this memorandum of understanding and the commitment to jointly procure goods and services where it is mutually beneficial as outlined in the MOU. And if I may just explain this a little bit, I was informally asked by that group for the town to join them, and then we had a photo op that the mayor of Welland wanted to proceed before I could bring this to council. So at that photo op and the ensuing press release, it was indeed pointed out that council had to approve this MOU in the town of Pelham, and I think Thorold hadn't approved it yet either. So that is why the photo went out before the approval went on. So I'm asking council, of course, we can discuss this, and I'm hoping council sees fit to go through with this procurement group discussion on it. Councilor Hildebrand.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think it's an excellent idea. I can't understand why we've waited so long to do this. However, it's good that you've taken the initiative to join the group. And I would ask, has this group been jointly purchasing together before, or is this something brand new?
No, they have, other than us, that group has, and Wainfleet. So Town of Pelham and Wainfleet are the new members, and the other members have been purchasing for 2 or 3 years now. And then they were nice enough to invite us on board. Yeah.
And how effectively has it worked for them?
I have no idea for that, other than the fact that after 3 years, it's continuing, so they must be finding some savings in it.
Great, thank you.
Mr. CAO, do you have any comments to make on it?
It would certainly, I think, please staff, but more importantly, support and enhance our institutional capacity if council were to endorse this. We are the perfect size to benefit enormously from an initiative such as this, specifically because we have exactly one person on staff who has the professional credentials to be a professional purchaser, meaning there isn't any backup to the position. So this relationship with other municipalities to venture forth with RFPs, any number which we can piggyback on, has the effect of sort of force multiplying our one staff resource, who, like any other mammal, can be sick, goes on vacation, etc., and then we're really left without. So this is a capacity, this is an opportunity to purchase, not just the volume purchase, which is always the default argument that there's some hope that the price comes down, but as importantly, as on an institutional level, we have one person who can push that through, and that's the extent of our resourcing. So if for various items we can rely, for routine items, routine transactions, we can rely on the group, which means we don't always have to do it ourselves. We can focus our energies on the unique to the town of Pelham purchases, the RFPs that are for our construction projects or for things that only interest us, and we can get better value added. So this, I don't know the full extent of it. We're waiting for council endorsement. We'd be happy to bring back a staff report with how we think it can work specifically, or not, as you prefer, but we certainly see this as having great potential.
Thank you. Councilor Hahn?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So just with the upcoming winter season, is it too late in the year to use some of the buying power for salt sand? Or have we already made that purchase, or not? Or any other plows or any other winter-related things that we might need? Can we use it for that, or is that ship sailed already for the year?
Director?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to equipment, those purchases have not been made. With respect to road salt and sand, we have made previous purchases to get us through this budget year, and then we'll be looking to purchase additional materials in 2020. So I believe there's still an opportunity for us to piggyback on the bulk materials that we use for our winter maintenance.
Thanks.
Councilor Court?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. What percentage are we looking at saving? 5 to 10, or what practices the previous, or the other municipalities had? What savings did they see?
At a staff level, we don't have any data to offer you on that at this point in time, until council endorsements received, or unless council endorsements received. We haven't investigated, and it's premature to devote our resources unless it reflects the will of council. That said, if you do end up endorsing, we expect to be able to answer those questions in due course.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, what are we looking at purchasing? Cars, I presume salt and sand? Is it the day-to-day operation of?
Some examples that I heard around the table was when we get a contractor in to repair sidewalks, and instead of just, I don't know how many we repair, whether it be half a mile a year, all of a sudden you get all these communities and you get a contractor coming in to do 6 or 7 miles. You're going to get a better price on that. I'm not too sure if we should be also, once we get familiar with the group, go into some things as tree cutting programs and what have you. I know the other ones are still doing it independently, but just stuff that we don't do a lot of, but do it every year, and the fact that now we can multiply it by a factor of 5 is why what we would see the benefit from. Yeah.
So,
Councilor Court?
So how would that go if is there going to be a tender out there, or we're going to have to accept the other bids? If Welland and Wainfleet decided to go with a certain company, we thought it was a little too expensive, what happens in that scenario?
Mr. Seagull? Yeah.
At this point in time, it remains premature for us to give you really specific answers. I can tell you in the abstract, I believe it's in the best interest, if we can find specific items upon which we are in mutual agreement, the way that this would behoove us is if we agree that an RFP run by the city of Welland will be well done and doesn't require any second guessing, that we'll just automatically join in that. If we say, well, Welland's purchasing department, also run by professionals, so the price they obtain for widget X is good for the town of Pelham. And so really it's about mutual recognition of the professionals on each other's staffs, and to just sort of jump, and to only be able, the beautiful proposal, or part of the proposal, is we only need to jump in on things on which we wish to jump in. So if it doesn't seem like it's a good idea or the right time or the right fit, we need not participate. And if it does, really it would require a bylaw and a policy amendment by council so that we're prepared to allow the work of others, not supervised by ourselves, but then in turn offer our own work on the same basic concept.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor
And just a comment through you, Mr. Mayor. This might be a good opportunity. If any of these other cities or municipalities are involved with gypsy moths, it might be a good test.
Yeah, who knows?
Huh?
Exactly, yes. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay, anyone else? Okay, not seeing any more discussion. I will read it one more time. Be it resolved that council receive Mayor Junkin's report regarding the memorandum of understanding relating to the procurement of goods and services representing a commitment by the cities of Port Colborne, Thorold, and Welland, and the township of Wainfleet and the town of Pelham, and that council for the town of Pelham endorse this memorandum of understanding and the commitment to jointly procure goods and services where it is mutually beneficial as outlined in the MOU. All those in favor? All those against? Motion passes. Motion put forward by Councilor Trophy, seconded by Councilor Core, that council receive report number 2019-0119, Pelham Public Art Advisory Committee update, and that council approve the updated name of the committee from the Pelham Public Art Advisory Committee to the Pelham Art Advisory Committee, and that council to approve the proposed terms of reference for the Pelham Art Advisory Committee, and that the council receive the Pelham Art Advisory Committee strategic plan for the 2019-2022 term of council for information. Any discussion on this motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries.
There's no unfinished business. Mr. Mayor,
Oh.
you have the item of new business.
Okay, so now we are at the point where we are discussing the unfinished, unfinished?
New business.
New business,
There is
yes.
no unfinished,
No.
so we'll move to.
So we're discussing the new business, and that will be to Councillor Trophy.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I was just, under new business, I'd like to bring up if we can get a staff report early 2020 in regards to reestablishing the Heritage Committee. And that'd be direction.
Thank you. Mr. CEO, any comments before we take it to council?
That's something staff can certainly comply with. 2020 is a reasonable time frame for us to get back to you. The town used to have such an advisory committee. It is, they're provided for under the Heritage Act. It is a fairly common practice and not one in which the town of Pelham currently participates. But that is something you might want to take some advice on, A, whether or not to do so, and then assuming you wish to do so, how you might wish to structure it and what sort of mandate you might wish to provide it with, et cetera. And that will take some time. You will recall at the moment our planning department is primarily focusing on the issue of cannabis and somewhat less, but still very focused on short-term rentals. And the plate is full, but that is an entirely reasonable and appropriate request, and we'd be very happy to comply with it somewhere in the first quarter of next year.
Thank you. I, for one, commend you for bringing this to council, Council Trophy. I think it's great. We did have one, and I think it is time that, I think we've all heard from citizens that are looking forward to this being up and running again. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you.
Any other comments from other councilors? Okay.
So give a seconder on that motion.
Oh,
then we can
I'm
take
sorry, a
vote.
seconder? Okay, Councilor Core is the seconder. So all those in favor, right, and any opposed? That motion carries then.
And there are no bylaws to consider, Mr. Mayor, just the confirming.
I'm sorry?
There are no regular bylaws, just the confirming bylaw.
Okay. So a motion put forward by Councilor Wink, seconded by Councilor Stewart. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and passed, being a bylaw number 4172, 2019, to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Pelham at its regular meeting held on the 4th day of November 2019. Any discussion? Not seeing any. Call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion put forward by Councilor Stewart, seconded by Councilor Wink. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of November 4th, Monday, 2019, be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for November 18th, 2019, at 5:30 p.m. All those in favor? All those opposed? Meeting is adjourned. That's a good thing.